Welcome to the Brass and Woodwind shop. I have a bass clarinet in my shop. I have not even looked at it yet, and they're not even sure what is wrong with it. So I'm going to diagnose it and see what is wrong with it. I have not opened this yet because I want you guys to see it at the same time I'm seeing it for the first time. Okay, it's a Bundy. The first thing I do when I get a bass clarinet in my shop is I look at the brand name, and that can always tell you a little bit about the instrument, and you should always know what brand of instrument you're working on. Next thing I do on a bass clarinet is I take the leak light, and this is a saxophone leak light, but it also works on bass clarinets. That is, if it has the leather pads, it works on bass clarinets. Sometimes they have the bladder pads, and it does not work on those. If I did not have a leak light, I would use a feeler gauge. That works too, but a leak light is easier. Bass clarinets have a fairly complicated register mechanism, and often those go bad, so I check that out. So that's how I get started. On most bass clarinets and on a Bundy, if you push down the register lever, it opens up this key here. And then you push down this one. This one should close 3 pads. 1, 2, 3, and then open this pad. So I check all those out, and those need to close at the same time. The register key should stay closed when you push the register lever down, and it should only open when you push this key down. On this bass clarinet, the register mechanism works well, so that is not a problem. Most student model bass clarinets have a register mechanism similar to this one. However, a lot of professional ones have a mechanism that hooks up to the G-D key right there, and it's actually far more complicated than this one. But if you look at the system, you can see how it works, and you can probably figure it out. What I'm going to do now is work my way down the instrument and check all the pads to see if they're seating like they should. I need to make sure that the leak light is underneath where the keys are, and then I open and close the keys, and I see how that works. I did notice this key here, it stays open and then it clicks shut, so I'm going to take care of that later. But it looks like it seats okay. It's just going to have an effect if you are playing the instrument, you push the key down and then you let go. It's going to cause problems, but it's still going to play if you do not use that key. So I'm going to keep working my way down. Okay, those keys are okay. And then there's the A-flat A mechanism, and that has to be an adjustment. If it's out of adjustment, one key could open. It looks like the pads seat. And when I talk about pads seating, it means that they go over the tone hole like they're supposed to. And it has nothing to do with adjustment or regulation. Those are two different things. A pad that seats is one that just sits on the tone hole the way it is supposed to. And those are good. Now there's this mechanism. If you push down on the thumb key, it closes this key, but this key also closes this one. So you need to make sure that that mechanism works like it's supposed to. Okay, that looks good. And now I'm going to work my way down. These 3 keys work together also. If you push down this one, those 2 should close. If you push down this one, all 3 should close at the same time. So I'm going to put the light underneath there. And then I'm going to look. This one is way off. You can see a lot of light coming through. I'll see if I can show you. Yes, I can. Right there, you can see a lot of light coming through. That light should not be there. So that is probably the problem with this bass clarinet, and that is probably why they brought it into the shop. But I'm going to keep working my way down. And as I go, I'm just making a mental note of the problems. Right now we have the problem of the palm key sticking and this key not closing all the way. Right now I'm just diagnosing, I'm not fixing. So the next thing we have is this mechanism. This mechanism on a bass clarinet is like the 3-ring mechanism on a soprano clarinet. It's like that, but because the keys are a lot farther apart, you cannot just put your fingers over the holes on a bass clarinet. So they had to put pads on there and make the mechanism a little bit different. On a bass clarinet, the first and second finger close this key here, and it also closes the B-flat, E-flat bridge key, so those should all be in adjustment. When this closes, the other two should close at the same time, and when this one closes, those two should also close at the same time. So I'm going to close those and see what we have. There's a slight adjustment problem between these two keys, so I have to check that out too. And these two also do not close this one, so this mechanism is out of adjustment. On the soprano clarinet, the third ring would also close this key, but on a bass clarinet it does not. That's an independent key. There's a lever and then a key right here, and it's on the same hinge rod, but they're not connected in any way. Something that is fairly common on bass clarinets that you have to look out for. There is supposed to be a pad under this key, but this is a lever and it does not get a pad. But there is a cutout right here so that this key does not hit the body of the bass clarinet. But because there's a cutout, a lot of people put pads under there thinking that there's supposed to be a pad, but there is not supposed to be a pad. So sometimes they can put a pad in there and the pad keeps this key from closing. And I think that's the case on this bass clarinet too. So what needs to happen on this bass clarinet is that pad needs to come out. I'm moving down the bass clarinet to the 4 lower keys. There are 4 pads, and then there are also 4 levers that control the pads. This lever here is for the low E flat key that's on the bell of the bass clarinet. I'm going to look at that later, but for right now I'm going to do these 4. This is an independent key right here that works by itself, so you don't need to worry about that one. But the other ones all work together. The F sharp C sharp key and also the F sharp C sharp lever, it should close the F C key and open the F sharp C sharp key at the same time. And those usually are not too much of a problem. What is usually a problem though are these 2 keys, the F C key and the E B key. Those need to close at the same time, and often they do not. So always check that adjustment. That often goes bad. On this one, it's a little bit off. You can see a little bit of light coming through there. If I push hard, I can close the pad, but you do not want to need to push hard when you're playing bass clarinet, especially not on the pinky keys, because when you're playing, you want it to play with a light touch. You do not want to have to think about pushing hard on any of the keys. You just want to think about the music when you're playing and not the mechanics of the instrument. Another thing to check for on bass clarinet are the right hand pinky keys. You can see right there that they added some cork to try to adjust these. Adding cork is usually not the best way to adjust these keys. You can see right there when I hold this, you can see that one key is way down. And again, when you're playing this, you do not want to have to think about where all the keys are. They should just be right where they're supposed to be. And somebody compensated for this key being bent down by putting extra cork there. Now it may cause things to play correctly as far as adjustment goes, but it's going to feel way off when you're playing it, so that needs to be taken care of too. Another very common problem on bass clarinets is a low E flat lever. This low E flat lever controls all of these 4 tabs here, not this one because that's independent, but all 4 of these. And the foot of that, the thing that controls all of it, is the cork that is underneath this right here, and most of that cork is gone. So if you put a cork under it like they're supposed to be, it's going to change everything right here. So what I would do is replace this cork first, then I adjust everything to the low E flat lever. After I'm done putting the cork on the low E flat lever, then I would adjust all of this, and after that then I would work on the bell. But right now I'm just going to look at the bell and see if there's anything wrong with that. There's not as much that goes wrong with a bass clarinet bell. You just need to make sure that the pad seats like it's supposed to. Sometimes this can get bent, or somebody puts the clarinet down too hard. If that happens, it can bend this tone hole, and that can cause the E flat key not to seat. And also a lot of times it's missing a cork, either right there or right there. And also this is not the correct floor peg tightening screw. So I would ask the customer if it works, and if they want me to replace it. I would suggest that they get it replaced, but not everyone would want to if it works, so I would ask them if they want to replace that. The last thing to check is the neck. A lot of student model bass clarinets do not have a key on the neck, so they're easy to check. You just need to make sure that this is round and this is round, and also that it fits without leaking. And if you can put it in there and it does not flop around, usually it's good. So this neck is good. A lot of professional model bass clarinets can have a key on the bottom of the neck, and a lot of times those will be out of adjustment. When I went through this bass clarinet, I found about 4 or 5 things that need work, but whenever you work on bass clarinets, there are always more things than you think. So as I work on this, I'm sure I will find more. This video is about what I do when I first go through an instrument. It will need some work, and that's for different videos though. Please subscribe for more band instrument repair videos. Look in the description below for links to related videos.